Hello and welcome to FTV Gamenight. I'm Dixon, joined by Chris Edel. We're going to talk a lot about college basketball on tonight's episode. First, Chris, we saw obviously the national championship last night between UConn and Kentucky. So any thoughts on the game real quick before we really get going?
Well, it was a fun game to watch for sure. It was one that was defined by momentum swings. I just remember early in the first half, Kentucky was losing 28-15, and then they cut the lead to 6 with a couple of big plays, and I just felt like that was the story of the game, like both teams just getting huge momentum swings, and really, until the end, it was completely up in the air, and ultimately, I feel as though the senior leadership of Shabazz Napier was too much for just the freshman five. What about you?
I think it's just interesting to the fact that both teams made, kind of Cinderella runs. I don't know if you can call them Cinderella, but UConn made a very, very similar run to what they did just a few years ago with Kemba Walker at point guard. This time it was Shabazz Napier. I just thought it was really cool to see a player like that kind of take over the tournament, kind of come out of nowhere, and then suddenly win a national championship. I mean, we cannot, none of us can say this, that UConn was a favorite going into this thing. They win it all. It was shocking, and I think that's what's great about college basketball. It's a good thing too that UConn or a Kentucky team was the one that to make this run, because they're popular teams. UConn obviously had a huge fan base there, so did Kentucky. And you know what? It made for a great game and kind of a great end to the tournament. Chris, going into this game, what do you think made the difference for UConn, on the court?
Well, I mean, obviously the play of Shabazz Napier, 22 points, and he commands that offense. He passes the ball so well, doesn't turn it over very often, and he played lights out last night. Obviously, he had a great tournament, but I mean, he didn't give up a single play. I mean, obviously, he played a lot of minutes. And you saw some of those Kentucky players get a little tired. Like, they like to play fast, but that wore them out. And then they didn't really have enough energy in them to play for the whole 40 minutes. And I just feel like Napier, I don't know how he did it, but he just played so hard those 40 minutes. And really, that effort was there for the UConn. And Kentucky has the talent, has the size, but yesterday, obviously, you see they struggle at times because they're a team with very little chemistry because they're all freshmen. They've never played before this season with each other. They're young. They make mistakes. And obviously, both teams struggled at times during the season because neither of them were a high seed, UConn 7, Kentucky 8. But UConn kind of, cemented all the issues. They got rid of those throughout the tournament. And Kentucky had a couple really dramatic wins. I mean, Aaron Harrison with 2 3-pointers to win the last 2 games that were nail-biters. But UConn kind of took control early on, and just that proved to be the difference.
Yeah, I was really just impressed because I think both teams, the way they made this run through the tournament, I was really impressed with the way UConn kind of closed things out in the second half. Kentucky hit 3 game-winning or game-tying 3-pointers in this tournament in 3 different games, of course. So that was quite an amazing feat by that team. But this time it didn't work out for them. UConn kind of took control. I think they were in control of the entire game. And that's kind of what UConn basketball has been known to do. Even under Jim Calhoun, now they have a new head coach. They take control of games, playing good defense. They held Kentucky to 54 points. The Harrison twins, they didn't really take over that game late, and that made a difference for the Huskies.
Yeah, Kentucky, I feel like they had to go away from their strengths. I mean, obviously, all their starters being over 6'6", I mean, playing above the rim, getting those rebounds, just playing hard in the paint is definitely their style, and they took a lot of, in my opinion, ill-advised shots that just fell, to UConn defenders with the rebounds. Like, the rebounding just wasn't there yesterday, and they just didn't have enough in them to react and adjust mid-game.
Yeah, I think the difference, too, is could you argue that a lot of those clutch threes that Kentucky had earlier in the tournament, they were almost ill-advised shots themselves. They were well defended. The one against Wisconsin, beautifully defended. The same for Michigan. This time they just didn't drop. So I wouldn't even say that Kentucky played much of a different game than they did against Michigan or Wisconsin. It's just this time, the ball fell in Connecticut's corner instead of Kentucky's. And sometimes in a national championship game where things can be so close, where you had two kind of middle-level seeds playing each other. A ball bouncing your way here or there will make the difference between number 1 and number 2 at the end of the day.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you, especially, talking about a lucky shot to beat Michigan, in the last 2.5 seconds. That shot obviously was incredible, and then Wisconsin game as well. And really just the threes weren't falling for Harrison this game, and James Young didn't have the dominant performance he did against Wisconsin. And also Julius Randle, I feel like everyone was thinking it was either him or Parker before the season as the number 1 pick in the NBA. Obviously, team makes the final. Like, that's a great accomplishment for a team that really didn't look like they would go very far in the tournament coming into it. But Randall kind of faded at the end of the tournament.
I think you're going to see that with young players in big environments like that. Julius Randle being, 18, 19 years old, the guy just entered college, big stage. Teams that were in the Final Four were kind of known for playing good defense anyway, so I don't think he was going to make a huge impact as an offensive player. But I felt like he made enough of an impact defensively. It just wasn't enough to beat a very, very good UConn team that has played together for longer than I think any of these or UK players have. So I think that just made a huge difference. I wouldn't even say that Julius Randle faded from the final few games of the tournament. I just think playing against more experienced, more talented, more cohesive teams made the difference. So with that, we're going to go to our next topic when we get back. John Calipari to the Lakers. It's been the talk of the day. This is FTV Game Night on FTV2. Hello and welcome back to FTV Game Night. I'm Stephen Dixon, joined by Chris Edel. We're going to talk about John Calipari and the possibility of him joining the Lakers next season, leaving Kentucky. Kentucky alum Rex Chapman tweeted last night, and I think a little before earlier in the day, that Calipari to the Lakers was a done deal after the national championship game. Kentucky went on to lose the game 60-54. Rex Chapman kind of backed off of those comments, but the media took off with that story because we've seen it before from Calipari. He left Memphis, back in 2009 for Kentucky. Chris, do you expect that there's a true possibility that Calipari will join the Lakers next season?
Yeah, I definitely think that's a possibility. Obviously, the Lakers is a great organization. Obviously, a little down right now, but with that great history and tradition and fan base, I think any coach would definitely strongly consider a job there. And also, he's won at Kentucky. He's got his one and done mentality where he gets 5 freshmen. They go to the NBA. I just feel as though that might wear on a coach, and really there's no continuity, no tradition there. And obviously a coach wouldn't say they're not loyal to the school they're coaching for, but I feel as though he could easily make a jump to the NBA.
Yeah, you said it could wear on a coach, mentally and physically, because you have to travel every single year just to recruit an entirely new team. I think that does wear on a coach, and I think in the NBA there's a little more stability in how you build the team. He might actually have his starting lineup for more than just one season, and one season in college basketball is only about 30-something games. So it's a lot different. I'd expect that Calipari, if he had the option, I think he would take the Lakers job. And we can't say that, if he denies the reports that, have him linked to that Laker job, can we really believe him? Because he did kind of a similar thing with Memphis, going to Kentucky. He's a guy known to move around, and who knows, there might be some NCAA investigations right after he leaves, just like it happened at Memphis with Derrick Rose's SAT scores. But I think going into the NBA would be a great possibility and a great opportunity for John Calipari, because I think he would have that stability with those players. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it'd be a good move for him. I'm interested to see, though, which of his 5 freshmen, if any, are going to stay. Like, if a core of them stay, I think that would be an attractive option to stay at Kentucky, obviously, making it to the final this year with 5 freshmen. 2, 3 of those guys, the Harrison twins, if they stayed, that'd be looking pretty good to stay. But also, definitely, I'm not sure if this would be the year to go to the Lakers, but if they're looking to fire their head coach now in Los Angeles, I would jump on this opportunity. But obviously 2 more years of Kobe Bryant taking up a lot of the salary cap in Los Angeles, maybe if they don't fire the head coach in Los Angeles, maybe wait a year or 2. But I think if the opportunity arises to go right now, I think you have to take it.
Yeah, I agree too, because I think a lot of things that people are forgetting about is the fact that the Lakers are so bad this year that they get a lottery pick. I just have a gut feeling that they're going to be in the top 5 draft picks this year. It's a really deep draft. You could probably go find yourself a young player to build that franchise around. That there's going to be a transition period. You're not just going to win the finals next season. Laker fans shouldn't expect that. But if Calipari went there, I think he'd love the opportunity to coach a Jabari Parker, coach his own player again in Julius Randle, and have him longer than just one season. There's a lot of good young players you can build on in this draft. The Lakers are probably going to have a lot of cap room. They can go out and pursue free agents. There's a lot of flexibility, a lot of glamour, a lot of money that goes with this new Lakers job next season. I'm surprised Phil Jackson or the Lakers didn't try to reunite and rebuild this thing together, but I think Calipari would have been probably the next best thing.
Yeah, I think it'd be really good for the Lakers organization. Obviously, a critical time period right now for the Lakers. If you mess up, get the wrong free agent draft.
Because they already suck.
So. Right. And it can go downhill, and it can go downhill quick if they don't, stop like this horrible slide that they've got going on, and they need a smart coach like Calipari. And I think, obviously, there wouldn't be immediate pressure to win this season or the next. You're not going to fire a marquee coach like that just because he didn't put all the pieces together out of the shambles that is the Lakers right now. Give him a few years. Obviously, he likes to win. He's a winner. Kentucky, always a really good team. But I think he'd be okay with a couple subpar seasons in which he can construct his team and then really try to go make the Lakers, one of the marquee organizations again.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of people forget, too, that he's just a really good coach. He understands how to get basketball players to reach their maximum potential. Even if he only has them for a few months, I think he goes to the NBA. He could take a lot of good young players. They would love to play for him. Calipari is really known as a player's coach. He connects well with these young guys. I think the Lakers are probably going to go for a new philosophy if this hire does happen. But let's clarify this. This is pretty much all a rumor right now. We don't really have any hard evidence or any sources that say that Calipari to the Lakers is a done deal. This is just one Kentucky guy saying this. He did not even say he had a source. So maybe he meant that this was a gut feeling, or that he's hearing rumors. But you have to, as a journalist, you have to clarify that this came from a source if you're 100% confident that this is going to potentially happen. So take it with a grain of salt. Right now, we should just assume that John Calipari is going to stay in Lexington, Kentucky for the next basketball season. But I don't know. It's just interesting to think about Calipari going to the Los Angeles Lakers next season. We'll be back on FTV Gamenight. We're going to talk about the NFL, a little bit of the draft. We'll see you back. Welcome back to FTV Gamenight. I'm Stephen Dixon. He's Chris Edel. We're going to talk a little NFL draft here. Less than a month away now. The draft is in May this year. So we're kind of getting used to that. Chris, the Falcons have been that team that a lot of writers, analysts have kind of pegged to be that team that's going to trade up for a player in this year's draft. They currently pick number 6. They could probably move up to into the top 3. Who would be that player that they would want to grab?
I mean, you've heard it a lot, but I think Jadeveon Clowney is that one playmaker that people really want. And if you look at the Falcons, their offense, I mean, you've got a great quarterback who's going to be there for a long time. You've got Julio Jones, Roddy White, a solid running back situation. And there aren't any running backs you want to trade up for in this draft at all. So really you're looking at a playmaker on the defense because, I mean, obviously the offense last year, it hurt a lot to have Roddy White hampered by injuries and then Julio Jones missed the majority of the season. But that offense, and Steven Jackson being injured for most of the season, but with all those players healthy, that offense is great, and I think they're going to do a lot of things. And the defense needs to catch up with that. And you've lost a couple defensive linemen in the last few seasons, and really I think a playmaker like Clowney, local crowd, if you will, from South Carolina coming to Atlanta, that's the nearest team. I think that would be an exciting pick and also one that is sound and it's a smart. It's not, you're not just making a splash, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, I definitely understand. I think Clowney could really just invigorate a defense, kind of bring life, not just at his position, but all around, because an offense would have to account for him, rushing the passer, playing against the run. It'd make that entire defense better, to be completely honest. So if the Falcons were going to trade up, it would most likely be Jadeveon Clowney. I mean, maybe you could consider a guy like Jake Matthews or Greg Robinson. It looks like franchise left tackles where they are. Greg Robinson could probably be a Hall of Fame level guard if you wanted to move him there. And the Falcons were pretty weak up front on the offensive line there. So they have some options. And then, they could always just stay at number 6 and pick up a pretty solid defensive player, maybe like Khalil Mack or, Taylor Lewan. There's a lot of different options for the Falcons. But they're the most intriguing team in that top 10, I think, besides the Rams, of course, because they have so many options with 2 picks in the top 15. But the Falcons moving up to get Clowney, that's a team that I'm going to watch out for come May 8th when the first round kicks off. Another team I want to talk about, and a team you like to follow a lot, the Cleveland Browns. Obviously, since they're so putrid anyway, they have a lot of options. They could get quarterback. They could go anywhere on the offensive line. Defense, playmakers. Where do you think they go?
If you're the Cleveland Browns, you need a quarterback that you're going to stick with.
Johnny Manziel?
I'm not sure. Obviously, I would say if Blake Bortles falls to 4th, which if the Texans don't take him, it could happen because, you're looking at 2nd. The Rams don't need a quarterback.
Don't forget the Jags number 3 for Bortles as well, even if the Texans don't take him.
Right. I'm not sure if the Jags are going to take a quarterback, but if Bortles falls to 4th, I think you definitely take that. Manziel, his pro day, obviously impressive. I wasn't the biggest fan. Obviously, he has great playmaking ability. He just does a lot of stuff. He's seemed a little bit more mature through the draft process, but, Connor Shaw said this is the longest job interview in the world. Maybe Manziel's just putting on a face for this, 4 or 5 month job interview, if you will. I'm not sold on his character and being that leader in the locker room that's going to put the team before himself and put the city before himself, because he likes the limelight, and Cleveland is not the limelight by any means. So I'm not sure there. Bridgewater, obviously everyone really high on him earlier, but not so much. So if Blake Bortles is taken, I don't know what you do with the 4th pick in Cleveland.
Sammy Watkins could be a good fit right there, getting that playmaker.
Yeah, you need another playmaker.
Opposite of Josh Gordon, that'd be pretty frightening.
No, you definitely do need another playmaker. I'm not sure. Obviously, you've got great left tackle there. I think defense is pretty solid. Some good pickups and already a solid defense. Everyone talks about how bad the Cleveland Browns are in general because typically their offense and their defense is put into a tough position, but they've got some talented players, some Pro Bowlers out there. So I don't want to spend that 4th pick on a defender. I want to put it either a quarterback. I could see Sammy Watkins. Also, you've got that 26th pick if you're the Browns. So if you're getting Blake Bortles or if you're going for Manziel with that 4th pick, I think you could still pick up a pretty good wide receiver with 26. I think Jordan Matthews from Vanderbilt is a good guy you could pick up. I think he's worth that pick. And you don't need the number 1 guy. You've already got the number 1 guy. Obviously, running back again is a position the Browns would like help with. They've got Ben Tate, who's had injury problems, but no first round. I just don't see any first round running back talent. So hoping to get Bortles, or I could see them going with Manziel. They want a quarterback from this draft. They've gotten rid of 2 of their 3. They want somebody now, and if Bortles, gets taken in the first 3 picks, I think they might gamble on him and then pick up another playmaker and wide receiver with that 26th pick.
I think this could be a pretty good scenario for the Browns where they pick right now. Obviously number 4, you can just go best player available, get your weapon in Sammy Watkins. You could possibly go anywhere on the offensive line. Just get a great player that you are confident that is going to be kind of a franchise changer. Get yourself going in the right direction and start winning some games. But Teddy Bridgewater, he's fallen so much in this process. You maybe take a gamble at him in the late part of the first round. You have that kind of luxury pick. You got him for nothing, thanks to Trent Richardson going to the Colts, which is still one of the worst moves I've seen this year.
Yeah.
He was absolutely worthless for the Colts, and the Browns get a first-round pick for him. Maybe if Bridgewater falls, which I'm starting to think he will, he might potentially even fall out of the first round. But maybe the Browns think that they can go Bridgewater there because he did show top 5 ability on tape. A lot of people just get scared off by his pro day, and just the process in general has kind of hurt him and his stock. Bridgewater to the Browns, I think at number 26 would be a great option for that team. The rest of the draft is such a crapshoot, I think. There's so many good players. I think really the meat of this draft is going to be in the 2nd and 3rd rounds. So when you talked about running backs to the Browns, I think they could get a guy in the 3rd round. That would be,
definitely.
Yeah, you saw it last year. I think the best running backs, there weren't any taken in the first round, but you saw Eddie Lacy go to the Green Bay Packers. Le'Veon Bell went to the Pittsburgh Steelers. They were productive backs for their team. Giovanni Bernard to Cincinnati. I think Bishop Sankey out of Washington this year will be a great fit for a team like Cleveland, who's just trying to get their run game going. I think they could build pretty much everything to make a rookie quarterback feel comfortable. You had that Hall of Fame left tackle in Joe Thomas. A lot of ways to go for the Browns, and they're a team that I want to watch in the next few seasons because if they don't develop, I'll be pretty shocked.
Yeah. But we'd be shocked, but that's what we've seen from the last 5-10 years with drafts, so we'll see what they do.
Yeah. Well, that's all we have for tonight. There's no Furman Sports update this week, so we'll see you next week with more FTV Game Night.